Yeah, I was thinking to myself, I have, the one-sided conversation because I'm alone all the time. I started thinking about Stephen King being able to do it, and all these guys, and I started thinking, there's two kinds of people. There's writers and there's readers. There's people who read voraciously and they're always informing themselves with data and information, and they're detailed and they're articulate and they're knowledgeable. And then you got writers. Writers are people who are not going to go. These are my definitions. I was thinking about this. I was thinking, what is a writer? Because I've been thinking like Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, Follow Your Own Bliss. You can be a writer if you want to, Joseph Campbell was saying. A mythologist guy who passed away. Bill Moyers interviewed him, and they had a great series of conversations for television, PBS, and then went in publishing for. And over the years, he was known to be really a brilliant man, Joseph Campbell. He was saying, now you can be anything you want, and as long as you can be a writer, but you got to acknowledge the fact that most people aren't going to care what you have to say. You might end up living in a chicken coop, destitute and unknown, but you can always follow your own bliss. You can always do what you think you should do, no matter how, dreaming it is. I was thinking, I have been writing since I've been 16 years old. I've been taking my thoughts, putting a pen to a paper or a typewriter, and then later on a word processor, the Brother word processor I had years and years later in the 90s, and then I started to actually physically, do the internet thing, and I haven't stopped. I haven't shut off. I've been a conscience writing, and I've kind of been more true to it than as much as anything else. I think I've been more true in my writing than I have been in my music, and I think that's pretty much. I mean, even years ago when I was a kid and I was smoking pot and I was telling my sisters and my family were talking to me back then, I would interact with them, and I would say, hey, they're going to legalize pot one day, and what do I care? This is just a phase of my life. I'm a writer. And I wasn't joking. I was really writing at the time. I was thinking intellectual concepts and constructs, not just delusional, ramblings. And they were insightful. I was into I Ching, and I was Christian, but I was into Buddhism and philosophies and world religious worldviews and comparative philosophies. Later on, I got into some kind of theology, comparative theology, and dogmas. But I've been reading and did the experience stuff, and today I acknowledge Ken Kesey, R.D. Lang, Timothy Leary. I read off the top of my head, Ken Kesey, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Tom Wolfe with his electric Kool-Aid acid test, H.P. Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King, obviously, early Clive Barker. I stopped reading them around Cabal. I spelt it with a C-A-B-A-L on my YouTube profile as a book, an author, but it's probably K-A-B. I thought it was C-A-B. I'm not sure. Cabal. I don't know. So I'm just saying to myself in the shower at things, I got a lot of ideas. I never really put the time together to get it together. There's no market for me. It's just me, eating a bag of potato chips and writing. I'm starting to think, though, after, I'm reading, right now I'm reading Everything's Eventual by Stephen King. And I only got to the second story, The Man in the Black Suit. And I'm starting that after reading Autopsy Room 4 and his intro. And I'm thinking, he really, just like I view musicians now that I'm older, and all my idols are getting older, or they're not there anymore. Like we're hearing I don't want to compare anybody or criticize anybody, but just I could, but and that's another topic. Is why are these old people still there doing this, and you're ignoring all the possible young talent out here? You know, if they're pitchy and they're not able to perform anymore, but they got their name, then maybe they ought to just manage the band. That's a new band, like in the old days, instead of standing there in their same costumes that they had on when they were kids in their early 30s, in their 20s and their 30s when they were first made it big and they actually viable and commercially accepted back then. When they first when they were big, when they were able to do it, they can't even do it anymore, and they're standing there in front of us. It's morbid.